So, is there racism? Sure. It's there. It exists. But is it like in the United States? No. Hi, welcome to Retro Afro Abroad. I'm a single Black mom who left the Midwest United States to start afresh in Spain. Click on the link below to subscribe to my channel, where I share what it's really like to explore a new country, embrace the culture, and live boldly. Today, I want to talk about racism in northern Spain because it's my most asked question. Going from my history as a West African kid, I traveled to a lot of countries because of my parents' line of work. So I got very used to being the only African, the only Black person, the only foreigner wherever I went. Remember, this was the 80s and 90s. People used to travel, but not the way they do now. And there was a little bit of a bubble of expat kids and families where there were always 4 or 5 families from my home country in whatever school or place I went to. There was also a strong cultural identity of what it meant to be from my culture, the language we spoke, the food we ate, the way we behaved. So that did insulate me some from accumulation of microaggressions that I see with some of my African American friends while they were growing up. I say this because I am limited in my discussion about racism, mostly for these 2 reasons. I happen to be in the intersectionality of being a foreigner and an African and a woman. Many times, if there was any kind of behavior, I was more likely to assume it was because I was a woman or because I was a foreigner, rather than specifically because I was Black. I was not aware of the term microaggression growing up, so I did not know what it was or what to look for in school or at the playground or at different places. I did notice otherism, which I chalked to being a foreigner, maybe having different food. But I did not pinpoint that I was Black until I got to the United States. I want to do this to start a conversation, and then people can make educated guesses as to whether or not they want to come here or not. And I hope more well-traveled or educated people can add to the conversation in the comments. I moved from the Midwest United States, where it was about 90% white, and the 10% were mostly first-generation immigrants, either African, South Asian, or East Asian. Where I moved to now in northern Spain, it's more about 95% European. Not just Spanish, but a few of the EU nationalities that have also moved to the area, but it's still majority Spanish. There is a growing population of immigrants from Latin America, but not a lot of people from Latin America, Asian, or African. Just not a lot of us around here. So my first surprising element here was seeing the reversal of an attitude that I saw in the United States, being both African born and a United States citizen. In the United States, there are pockets where I feel there is a model African minority thing going on, where either you are noble poor or very well educated. For me, I perceive it because most of the West Africans I know came from their home country with their skills, gifts, and societal structures intact and unhindered by the government of the country that they were in. So they seem to take advantage of the United States systems, even in the presence of racism or microaggressions. But here in Spain, the African Americans are treated better. We are assumed to have more money, more style, and more cultural aspects that Europe has been trying to emulate for a long time. Africans, on the other hand, especially North Africans, are assumed to be illegal immigrants, poor, and taken away from the social systems, similar to the welfare queen stereotype in the United States. I remember one off comment that really drove it home. As you can see, I am mid-toned to dark. And one lady said, "Oh, it's a good thing you're not any darker. Otherwise, you would have been mistaken for a North African." I was flabbergasted that she could say that with her whole chest. There is still otherism, and there are some other areas of Spain. I've heard Barcelona, and I've heard at the really bottom tip of Spain, it can get a little weird. And that weirdness is people follow you around in stores. Yeah, bizarre. I'm looking at you. Maybe not being allowed into clubs until they spoke and people heard their American accent, then they were let in, but not racial or police violence. Another thing that affects this dynamic is the interplay of class and racism. There is an amount of class or money that can buy you access in Spain that I don't think can happen quite the same in the United States. There seems to be some kind of ceiling in America. So when I moved here, people strongly encouraged me to display markers of wealth and status, to state my Americanness, to state that I have a job that brought me to Spain. I remember the first time I went to the public systems doctor with my boyfriend to help me translate. And I remember he clearly stated that I worked for a well-known American company here. And I asked, why? Why did you do that? And he said, I didn't want the doctor to treat you any kind of way. I'm not sure what it's like here, but I don't want to take any chances with you. I'm not from here. I'm not from this state. Now, he's Spanish, but that tells you a little something about how they treat people who they perceive to be poor with no job or taking from the system. I've met so many Americans who are illegal here and don't have jobs, but there isn't the same amount of negative tension or feeling like they are taken away from the system as when it is an African. So is there racism? Sure. It's there. It exists. But is it like in the United States? No. So for me, what are the differences? The first thing is that when people act stupid and I feel in the mood to educate and combat stereotypes, the difference I find here is it goes away very quickly. In the United States, there were these pockets where the stereotype always persists. Even if I show education or markers of good upbringing, they would still feel like, oh, it must be affirmative action. Or, oh, you must have married somebody wealthy. Or, oh, there must have been this reason or that reason. It just would persist and persist. And here, it feels like once I give a little education, like that's backwards, it just drops. There is no, oh, it's because you guys have this or it's because of that. None of that. The second thing is safety. My safety, 100%. I mean, around here, you can go out till 1 a.m. in the morning and you'll be fine. It's not the same in the United States. For normal crime reasons and for racial crime reasons. I'm not afraid of being falsely accused. I'm not afraid for my son and his safety. Now, people have told me that maybe the reason I don't feel a stereotype here is because I don't understand the language. While that is a valid point, I know so many first-generation immigrants who moved to the United States who did not have a good command of English, and they could feel the tension. With the classism, I can definitely sense a difference in attitude when I'm dressed like this or in work clothes and put very nicely together versus on a weekend where I'm in sweatpants and a sweatshirt or baggy jeans. But when I'm dressed very nicely, I'm done up, absolutely, I am treated really well. I move to the front of the line, people carrying stuff for me, tons of gentlemanly behavior. Actually, even when I'm dressed casually, I am given more gentlemanly behavior here than I am in the United States. It's like I'm seen here. Another thing that I found surprising is that a lot of the men find Black women attractive here. And it's not when I'm wearing my hard wig, which, by the way, it works. Hard wigs work. But whether I'm in braids, I'm in my natural 4C hair, there are good looks. There are comments with, oh, you're very pretty, you're very attractive, in respectful ways. You look very good. Yes, every once in a while you get a little chocolate. However, there's an appreciation. I am appreciated not for the parts of my looks that fit into a European standard of beauty, but for my nose, for the fullness of my lips, for my strong jawline, for how curly my hair is, for the fact that I have a trasteros, for everything that is stereotypically Black and African, there's an appreciation for the beauty of it. It doesn't feel fetishized because they also find Spanish women attractive and other races attractive, and it's for different things. And in America, I didn't get that. And that was even before the Me Too era. It was like I was invisible. I'm sure people who have traveled to other regions and lived there can give a better view of what goes on there. But for me here in northern Spain, for sure there's racism, but it's not the same as the United States. Thank you for being here. If this is interesting, please link and subscribe to my channel and let me know if you have any other questions that can help you decide whether you want to live here or just visit. I'll see you in the next one.